June night in 1980, Friday the 13th, 12 of her friends were murdered.
Hey everyone, Genome here, coming at you with the next episode of Was It Good? This is the series where I take a look back at some, nostalgia pictures of my childhood from like the 80s and up to the early 90s, and kind of see if, they still hold up, if they are as good as I remember. In this sub-series of that series, the Hack and or Slash series, I'm taking a look back at one of my favorite genres of movie back then, the stereotypical 80s slasher flick. To kick off said series, I decided to go ahead and start with what is obviously probably the most famous of all the 80s slasher movies, or at least as far as a film series go, and that's none other than Friday the 13th. Hopefully you saw it. I've already reviewed the very first movie about a week ago on my channel, link below. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out, leave a comment, let me know what you think of it. Better yet, watch it, then leave a comment and see what you think about it. See if you agree with me or not. I want to give the last one a 2, so 2 out of 5 that is. So let's see if part 2 can improve upon that rather low score. So let's get into it, shall we? Alright, so we are taking a look at Friday the 13th part 2.
Why should Friday the 13th, 1981 be any different? Friday the 13th, Part 2.
This movie came out in 1981, basically almost precisely 1 year after the first one came out. Now, chronologically speaking, I believe this movie takes place 5 years after the first one, so not to get anyone confused on dates and all that, but that's where it goes in movie time, 5 years supposedly. So, as we all know from watching the first one, if you haven't, spoilers now. Click below to just go to my score to see if the movie was good or not, if you don't want to see any spoilers. So there'll be plenty of them ahead, so including some footage. Alright, so anyway, where was I? Oh yes, so we all know from the last one that Pamela Voorhees was the killer in the last one. Jason's mom. Jason supposedly drowned in the lake. That's according to the story, which makes his appearance in this movie a little bit confusing, but whatever. More on that later. So, in this one, we need a new killer to go up and hack and or slash up a bunch of camp counselors. So, why not use the titular title person, Jason Voorhees himself? So, this is the first appearance of Jason in his adult form. He was in the flashback sequence, dream sequence at the end of part 1. So, whether you count that as his first appearance, I guess it is. It has to be, but we don't know if that's a dream or not. It's very... They leave it very ambiguous at the end of that one. This one also has a very ambiguous ending. So, Jason will be the shall we say, the machine who has fed teenagers to keep running. So, we see Jason in his more... well, not more or less human form. We don't once again know if he's dead, but he acts like he's a living creature. And especially in the first 4, he feels pain. He tends to defend himself a little more. So you'll see some of that in this, this episode by itself also showing that as well. But yeah, so he runs, he seems to think a little bit, I mean not too terribly much, given the constraints of the time limits of this movie. But he is there. Now, as you may notice, here somewhere, I'll put it up there, he looks a little bit different than his normal iconic hockey mask-clad form, he's wearing the burlap sack. This is a point of contention for some people. I myself find it very unnerving. I think it's far more effective than the hockey mask for eliciting kind of dread, because the hockey mask, covers the main part of his face. You can still see his head and stuff, and you kind of get a glimmer of what's going on in there. In this one, you just see a bit of an eye, so it's really unnerving. There's a really good scene at the end where he's looking up at one of the protagonists through that hole in his sack, as it were, and it looks really good. But something else the sack does is it is a stark contrast to the dark surroundings in this movie. It's really white, and it really stands out against the background and backdrop of this movie, which is mostly dark woods. So the movie starts off with a bit of closure from the last one. So Alice, from the one survivor from the first movie, is apparently living in an apartment somewhere near Crystal Lake. There's some sort of conversation with her mother that supposedly alludes to this, but I don't really glean that much from it. But apparently she's close enough to somehow Jason has tracked her down. Not really quite sure how he did that 5 years later. And this sets up both one of the best parts of the movie and one of the worst. To the worst part, I'll say that they added way too much footage from the first movie to try to recap and get people caught up. If people saw or came rushing to this movie, they probably saw the first one. So I think this is really unnecessary, and it adds a ton of extra time to the runtime, and maybe that's why they did it as well, just to eat up 10 or 15 minutes. I think it's 15 minutes for the first credits roll, or the introduction credits. So we see Alice, still played by Adrienne King, who had to kind of quit doing the series because she developed a stalker, apparently. So sorry to hear that. And actually, got her out of the acting biz pretty much altogether. So yeah, not all happiness and roses for surviving a Friday the 13th movie. So yeah, it just has a lot of dream flashback sequences, and it's really kind of annoying. They could have done it all in less than a minute, and it would have been just as effective. Now, once she wakes up out of this dream, this is one of the most effective parts of the movie, is when she's walking around her apartment and there's something wrong in there. And we know what the problem is. There's someone in there. She doesn't know this, but she's already psychologically damaged, so she's always, kind of nervous and looking around for, problems. So yeah, it's a pretty tense a bit of cinema here when he's kind of stalking her through the apartment and you just don't know when he's going to get her. There's a cheap jump scare in there. That's not befitting a movie like this. They had to go ahead and do it. It is a nice little touch to throw Pamela's head in the fridge, so it's the last thing she sees before she dies. And the ice pick to the skull is an interesting little way of doing it. Now, it's might be a little bit early to say. One thing this movie excels at is not predestination, but it excels at placing objects where they'll be referenced, or they're referencing objects that'll be used later in the movie. In this case, the ice pick is put down on the counter. She's carrying it around to defend herself, and she figures it's just the cat making the noise or whatever. So she puts it down, and that winds up being an instrument of her demise. But there's instances throughout this movie, like I'll show you here, where objects are placed where they're obviously going to be used later. Now, you might not obviously know that as the viewer, and actually most of it's done in a fairly natural way. Like, you wouldn't notice it. Like when he puts the spear down, just, he's leaning against the wall. It seems pretty natural. She's out there cutting firewood with a chainsaw, then she goes and puts it away, locks it away, and it seems they don't linger on the chainsaw too much, and it doesn't, there's no extravagant, locking up with a key and all that, like you really, something she can fumble with later, nothing like that. So it's very good at doing this. There's several scenes like that. I won't show them all in this movie, so that's good at that. But yeah, anyway, so, prologue over. Alice is gone. Now we can move on to the new camp, which is right next door to Camp Blood, Camp Crystal Lake, and meet our new batch of protagonists, basically counselors. So we got the headmaster, I guess you would call him, of the counselors. It's Paul, played by John Ferret, I think it's pronounced, as the sage and wise elder statesman, I guess, if you will, of the counselors. He's the one that's running the show. He looks pretty young himself, but Paul's second in command, basically, and love interest is Ginny, who is played by Amy Steele. I won't bother naming too many people because most of them have pretty small roles other than that. Of course, you got Walt Gorney, whatever it is, Crazy Ralph, but he doesn't last too long in the movie. Crazy Ralph and Alice being the last remaining survivors of the first movie. I forgot to mention him first, but he has such a small role, it doesn't really matter. They take care of him in this one. But anyway, so those are the two, the main people, kind of boyfriend and girlfriend dynamic, interesting. And then you got a random assorted, amount of teens with them. Another establishing shot is very interesting, is we all know the horror movie trope of the car won't start. You get in there and the car won't start when you need it to start. Once again, they establish early on in multiple different ways that Alice's car is not running well.
I'm sorry, okay? But my car's sick.
It doesn't seem like a big deal at first. Once again, it comes off as pretty natural. It's why she's late to her first counseling training session. But yeah, they set that up very well as well. So kudos to that. The teens seem pretty cool. There's, of course, the real young couple you see at first, and the big... I like his truck. He's got a giant truck. It's pretty cool, man.
Hey, Teddy buddy! We just rolled in. Yeah, Sandra's here.
Hi, Ted.
Hey, so you gonna come down?
Just a random standard teen couple. They seem to have good chemistry together. For some reason, Dennis the Menace seemed to have signed on to be a counselor, because we see him here playing a bit of a prank on his apparent object of desire. Paul is played fairly well, fairly straight. Nothing doesn't really come alive. There's a pretty cool scene, or interesting little scene, I guess, when he's kind of defending his counselors who wandered astray from the sheriff, the local deputy or sheriff or whatever. And a little bit of interesting wordplay there, but he's mostly just kind of static. But he's not bad. He's definitely not hammed up. I think he was probably told to be kind of understated, like he's the, like I said, once again, the elder, the one with knowledge there. So yeah, he comes off as pretty stereotypical. Ginny, a lot of people like her, and I'll say this: I like the betrayal that Amy Steele gave to her. I wasn't crazy about the character herself. She seems real passive aggressive and kind of snarky.
Ginny, I was starting to worry about you.
Bullshit, Paul.
I don't really find her overly pleasant. Maybe not supposed to, but once again, she puts up a hell of a fight at the end. So hey, there's that going for her. There's the jokester nerd. The Gucci model look-alike guy with the slingshot for some reason. It's interesting. They also put a paraplegic in the movie, and he is not safe in The Wrath of Jason either, which is also kind of interesting. He has love interest. Basically, everyone here has a pairing love interest, except for the poor nerd. Basically, all of them, though, seem pretty natural. I mean, they seem to have chemistry. All of them. I mean, they all seem to get along fairly well. There's no real disconnect between the group. So I kind of like that. It's much better than the first movie, and actually some of the other ones that follow behind it. They seem to be getting along all right. And there's even kind of a funny little, it's for bad jokes. There's actually a really funny joke that the nerd tells. I had to laugh at it. I couldn't remember it. You might have to turn it up. I can't hear it too well, but here it is.
It's brown and sits on a piano.
Your face.
Beethoven's last movement.
Being a classical music aficionado, I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but that was just kind of humorous. There's an interesting weirdness going on with this dog right here. Remember this dog? I'll get back to it later. Muffin. Sweet, sweet Muffin. There's not a whole lot of other actors in this, or tertiary characters. You do have an interesting well, interesting. But you have a deputy of some kind who is obviously the greatest ninja in the history of mankind, if his ability to sneak up on two teens over leaf-littered ground is any indicator.
Wild animal, I guess.
What are you kids doing out here?
There's several points in this movie where people put together their own makeup, psychological makeup of Jason through legend, and then using their own innate wisdom of, as also established that, for instance, Ginny's a child psychologist or in training in school for it.
What if there is a Jason?
Oh, bullshit. Jenny?
No, what if there is some kind of boy or beast running around Camp Crystal Lake? I mean, let's try to think beyond the legend.
So they kind of put their own pastiche, together and formulate a little bit of backstory for Jason on their own.
I mean, what would he be like today? Some kind of out-of-control psychopath? A frightened retard? A child trapped in a man's body?
Which is kind of interesting. It's cool. I mean, they kind of, dwell a little bit too long on what's camp legend. But I guess if they find, 14 bodies or so at a particular place that's right next to yours, I guess, the legend will hold on for quite a while. So now, of course, being a Friday the 13th movie, there's going to be a little bit of nudity and at least one or two hookups. I will say that one of the preparatory hookups got a little bit interesting, to say the least. The post-coital activities of one of the pairs actually leads into one of the more famous deaths in the series. Fairly well executed. Once again, heavily cut by the MPAA, as they did to a lot of this movie. In fact, they shaved off like a full minute of that, and that kind of gets to a point I'll make later on. But yeah, that's an interesting classic scene to be had there. So another thing this movie does is at the very beginning you see there's about 30 counselors or so there, and well, not that many die in this movie, so they got to figure out a way to get around that. So half the counselors go into town to spend their last night on the town before camp training begins, or whatever the next day, serious business that camp training is. Which also leads to what I would consider the Mac Daddy of all bar patrons.
I looked up ugly in the next day. There's a picture of it.
Alright, so characters aside, this movie also establishes something of Jason himself and the fact of where he lives. He basically has put together a ramshackle kind of hovel out in the middle of the woods. And it's visited a couple times in the movie, to great effect, by the way. And it looks really good. It's a good prop. It looks like it's just cobbled together whatever he could find around there. It does look a little bit bigger and more put together than someone like him should be able to do, but that's alright. It's dirty, it's dilapidated, it's just basically a roof and some walls, and tin that's thrown together. But in it he has a shrine that's set up. And something is interesting. If you look, I'll go ahead and give you a shot of it here, but if you look in the lower portion, there's 3 bodies down there, right? One of them is Terry, the other one is the sheriff, who we seen earlier chase him in a very long kind of foot run or race through the woods to get to this cabin. But there's in the third body, it's in the middle, and it's kind of decomposed. You can barely see it down there, but it's actually got an ice pick still sticking out of its head. That's Alice from the very beginning of the movie, which happened, I think, several months before these events took place. So interesting little, they didn't have to do that. That was a very nice little touch they added there. Now this movie, as far as cinematography is concerned, took giant leaps forward from the first one. There are some great shots in this movie. Dynamic shots. There's a really good one later on when the camera's following her running through the house. Jenny through the house trying to get away from Jason. Excellent. Just shots like that all over this. Camera's moving, panning, sweeping around. The first movie was a lot of static shots, and actually a lot of the other episodes or movies, as I recall, were like that. They were shot kind of statically. This one, the camera is really active, and there's some pretty good like perspective shots, like here. And there's lots of really good shots of kind of Jason that give him a real menacing kind of Nosferatu, like this very Nosferatu kind of scene here. But yeah, but there's some cool shots where Jason looks kind of scary. I really like this one right here where you can see him in a window through his own cabin as he's hauling butt to catch up with Jenny. So yeah, the camera work is just head and shoulders above the last movie. The lighting is better, a little less natural because some of the woodsy places seem a little too well lit. But once again, you won't be able to see what's going on somewhat. So there's a tense chase at the end. It's done better, much better. Well, it has to do with the actors and actresses, of course, than the first one. But yeah, it's pretty good. It's tense. I mean, you wouldn't know who's going to live or die if you don't know the rules of the horror genre, right? Jason's definitely human, and Jenny comports herself quite well to try to fend him off repeatedly. So I won't go in there and spoil the ending, so let's go ahead and get into some pros and cons real quick, and then we'll touch upon the ending a little bit, but not really get into it too much. So let's talk about some pros. Once again, I mentioned before, the cinematography is so much better, and it's just really good in general for a movie, especially one with a budget of only like $1.6 million. The camera work is just excellent. Lighting is well done as well. Sound is much better. I think they lowered the string noises that I complained about in the first one. Like I said, too many of those high C screeching string noises, you know, every time the Jason or a kill was happening. They're still present, but they've been toned down, and it's very effective then when it's not actually making you wince from the sound that's coming out of there. So, you know, the sound is pretty good. The music for the movie is really good. The acting is actually not bad. I don't remember anyone in this movie whose performance was bad. Maybe Jenny. Honestly, she's probably my least favorite of the characters, in all honesty, even though she's the main heroine, you know. I don't know if that's her acting, or I'm guessing it's more the directing she was given, you know, how to portray the character. I just wasn't crazy about her, but I mean, as an overall thing, the acting is fine. As far as horror movies go, this is Lawrence of Arabia good. I mean, for a horror movie, so it's not bad. Let's just say that. It's not too bad at all. The portrayal of Jason is I'd say it's really good in this. He's human. I mean, he's obviously vulnerable. He lives a lonely life out there in the middle of nowhere, you know, not being seen by anybody. He's obviously ashamed of his appearance somehow. I don't know how you would know to be that way, but or maybe the other kids made fun of him when he was a boy or something. I'm not sure, but so yeah, it kind of delves in. I mean, it's all unsaid. You have to get that from viewing the surroundings and, you know, the backstory that people give him. But, you know, there's a little bit of background given Jason, and it kind of gives him a little bit of motivation, possibly, to do the things he does. Some might even feel sorry for him. You know, the hermit who was stuck out in the woods for 20 or 30 years, whatever it is, and was horribly deformed. I don't know. I mean, you hate to feel pity for any character like this. It's killing dozens of people in a movie, you know, but who's to know? But he's definitely menacing in this. and you know, you don't see a whole lot of them. And it's just so much better than the first one. You know, I'll probably catch a lot of flack for this from people, but it was just so much better. Jason's a much better villain than Pamela was, because it's more believable with some of the stuff that's, you know, physically happening to people. Not to say that Pamela was bad, it's just that you have to suspend some disbelief that she was doing some of the things that she was, you know, physically. You know, overpowering grown men who were supposedly in the prime of their lives easily, and it was just, I mean, all horror movies you have to suspend some disbelief, but Jason makes a good protagonist. And, you know, even though he wasn't shown too terribly much in this movie, I mean, maybe less is more, I don't know. I don't know, it just makes it more effective. You know, the pros, this movie just flows, as opposed to the last one where there was so much extraneous footage that should have been cut. This one just gets to the point. Now, it is a short movie. Without all the flashbacks from the very beginning and the prologue being as long as it was, it's probably only like a 75 or 80-minute movie tops. So, yeah, it is shorter, but there's no waste. It's as long as it needs to be. There's no wasted time in this. It just gets moving. There's, you know, there's some slower parts to it, but those aren't bad. Those aren't bad slowing parts. There's something going on in those things. Someone's there talking. You know, they're establishing some other piece of the story. You know, exposition is used to fill those empty spaces, so it's not a bad thing. So the movie just moves, and it's just so much easier to watch than the first one. This is the kind of movie I wouldn't mind watching again, whereas I don't think I would watch the first one again, at least not anytime soon. So those are some pros. Now some cons. For those of you who are gore fiends, this movie is probably not going to do it for you. This movie was once again heavily censored. This is one of the, I think, the top 2 most heavily censored of all the Friday the 13th movies. So they had to cut a lot of effects. So definitely weaker than the first one in that regard, with what's shown on screen. And they have to sub that with some very heavy editing. Basically, it's a lot of really quick cuts. And it's almost every death is seen like these.
Where is she?
With really quick cuts in the end, so you don't actually, you know, you see the implement come down, and that it just cuts to something else. You know, not really the filmmaker's fault. I'm sure they just had to. They didn't want to give it an X rating, or it wouldn't have made any money if that would have been the case. So, yeah, unfortunately, the deaths, while actually kind of creative in this one, there's not too many cutaway deaths like where the murder happens off screen. But yeah, so that part of it was a little bit weaker. You know, the length could be a little bit longer, but I don't think it needed to be. So I'm not going to really hold that against it too much. I mean, I can't think of a whole lot of the cons. I mean, it was not too bad. I mean, the kill count being a little bit low, or at least the visual kill count being a little low, was probably the biggest con of this movie. So let's go ahead and get down to it. Do I think this movie is good or not? I think this movie is actually pretty great for a Friday the 13th movie. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and give this 4 out of 5 stars on my Friday the 13th scale, that is. It's everything a sequel should be in a horror movie. It expands upon the mythos that was already established in the first one, gets a better budget and production values. People go in kind of knowing, you know, what the protagonist of the movie is going to be all about. You know, people go in the theater and they kind of know what they're expecting a little more. Whether that's a good or a bad thing in your opinion is one thing. But yeah, this movie just does so much right. Compared to the first one, it was a joy to sit through. Great movie to watch with the significant others. And like a lot of the other ones that come after this, there's actually a little bit of nerve-wrackingness. There's some shots, like this one where Jason is chasing Jenny and she's in her car. And several others involving Jason, kind of like this one right here. That are generally kind of creepy. Once again, I think that sack kind of sets it off a little bit more. But yeah, he's more stalkerish in this one than some of the later ones, rather than just bullying his way forward. Because once again, he is a mere mortal, maybe, in this one. This kind of gets back to... Well, I'll save that for another time. But anyway, yes. It does everything better, I think, than the first one, and is everything a sequel should be. So definitely high marks for this Friday the 13th Part 2. Get 4 out of 5. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the ending here. Not too much, I don't give it all away, but we don't know if the ending is a dream or reality. We do not know the fate of Paul. And maybe the biggest question there is in this movie universe, or at least this movie series, is what happened to Muffin? Is Muffin alive? Or is Muffin dead?
Oh my God.
What is it?
Looks like a dog.
It's too mangled to tell.
So hard to tell here. I mean, I think the director, I believe, stated at one point that the last sequence was not a dream. But it's hard to tell. Who knows? But anyway, that's the dissertation of Friday the 13th Part 2. I'll be working on Part 3 sometime the next week, and hopefully I'll have it out to you. Once again, like I said, these edits take forever to do. I'll be working on this one late into the evening as it is. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more Friday the 13th content, more comic content, and heck, more motorcycle content. I have a new motorcycle to show off to the world here shortly. I have to get the cameras all set up and all that, but it'll be soon. So yes, go out and watch it if you like. If you're a horror aficionado of any kind, you've never seen the movie, I highly recommend going to watch Friday the 13th Part 2. So until next time, this is Genome, slogging his way through Friday the 13th once again, and loving it.